So yeah, good morning, everybody. I think we're now going to go over to Hong Kong, where we have Rio Ikeshiro and his colleagues who are going to talk for about 20 to 30 minutes about an upcoming conference that they're all organizing called Data Art for Climate Action. So I think I'll leave it to you, Rio, to do an intro for that and introduce your colleagues.
Great. Hi, Don. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. So I'm Rio Ikeshiro, and so we are going to be introducing DACA, the Data Art Climate Action Conference, which is going to be a conference held in Hong Kong, Graz, and online. And it's going to be on climate action and art and science approaches into tackling the emergency of our times. So today we are broadcasting live from Hong Kong, and here in the studio we have PerMagnus Lindborg.
Hello.
And Lina Simon.
Hi.
So in the next 20 to 30 minutes, we will give a general introduction to DACA, and followed by a little bit more detailed about the different components that will go into the conference, which will include various papers, presentations, music, and exhibitions. Okay, so that was I guess a classic example of a piece of music using data sonification. It's called "The Earth's Magnetic Field" by Charles Dodge. So the conference is called Data Art for Climate Action, and one approach to creating data art would be to use this process known as sonification. So I think that everyone is familiar with what visualization is, which is the presentation of data and information in a visual format. But seeing as we're on radio, and so we're just relying on sound, we thought that we would introduce this, I guess, sonic equivalent to visualization, which is sonification. So sonification is the presentation of data using sound without resorting to language. And so that example was from the 1960s. There are many classic and also historical examples to sonification. It's a niche field, but one which has had a small but dedicated, I guess, following. So in this conference, we have emphasized these two approaches, visualization and sonification. And as the conference's aim is to bring together artists and scientists, so the one approach would be to use data which tells the story of climate change and present that in an artistic, I guess, artistic context to I guess to promote action against action to promote, yes, climate action. So there are various approaches to sonification. You can usually, what happens is you have a whole set of data, and perhaps these could be mapped onto sound parameters. So in that example, as it's quite an old historical example, they're mapped to quite simple basic features such as pitch and rhythm and timbre. But there have been developments and more sophisticated ways of mapping data onto audio. So I think we've been told time and time again that about climate change and how the evidence and how the data backs up that argument. But sonification as well as visualization is another approach to hopefully tell that story, to highlight this narrative, and it can definitely benefit from more ways of actually trying to tell this message and get across this message to more people. So next we will play a short excerpt from a more recent example of sonification.
Yeah, okay, so that was an excerpt from Bob Sturm's piece from 2002. It's called Surf Music, Sonification of Ocean Buoy Spectral Data. My name is PerMagnus Lindborg, and I'm a colleague here of Ikeshiro. We also have Lina here in the studio. I think, Rio, the way that you highlighted that we did both with visualization and sonification at the DACA conference, that is really a key point, not only in that we think that we want to use all means available in order to reach people and to communicate better in more interesting, in more engaging, and more richer ways the climate crisis, and we can do this. And we think also that the task is on us as designers and artists to really try to do our best in order to put our skills to this effort, to contribute, simply speaking. Now, we're comparing visualization and sonification, but I always think that they're two quite different things. I mean, in the classic idea of sonification, there is this, I would call it a purist approach, that everything in the sound should explain itself. And notably, when Gregory Kramer, when he put in this fairly, I would say, dogmatic principle that we should not have any speech, any vocal acoustic communication, that is a hugely limiting factor when it comes to sonification. I mean, comparing with visualization, if you look at weather broadcasts or maps of any kind of data, really, they're full of symbolic information, they're full of numbers, they're full of written words that explain exactly what is happening visually in a visualization. It can be static or it can be dynamic, but you have this symbolic information. Now, this wasn't really part of what people who did sonification in the 1990s and the 2000s, that there was a purist approach, so you wouldn't have any talk explanation, any words to this. But I think that is part of what's changing with the principle of sonification. In particular, what people like Stephen Barras and Paul Vickers, who have really highlighted the need for an engineer, sonification engineers, to sort of reach out to sound artists and to learn from electroacoustic music composers about what is possible and how do we actually listen to things, and how can we have sort of soft communication and unconscious communication of things that are important through sound. But it's a much broader usage of the term now than what it was back then in the first two examples that we played. So with this in mind, we have for DACA, for the conference, we have invited as a keynote speaker, very prominent artist, Andrea Polli, and she's American, she's based in New Mexico. She's done a lot of public artwork, both with sound and with light. So this is sort of large scale things in a whole facades of large public buildings, bridges and such, with colors and sound. And we're going to play a short excerpt of Andrea's work, which illustrates this idea that what you're going to hear is her piece that she recorded, or she was visiting Antarctica, and she was visiting scientists working at one of these monitoring stations there, and she made interviews with them. So you hear voices of one or more of the scientists in this piece, together with a sort of pure sonification, audification, in fact, of an ice core sample, which is a record of tens or hundreds of thousands of years of temperature and chemical composition of the ice in Antarctica. I'm going to play a short excerpt from that piece by our DACA keynote.
Glacier Met Station. The main thing that we're trying to do is monitoring long-term climate, as opposed to seeing what the weather will be like the next couple days. Climate is something, it's long-term weather, and it can be affected by lots of different things going on, so it can be very complex. So what looks like somewhat of a dead place is actually a very simple ecological system.
Just because you have the data doesn't mean you understand the system. It's important to come down and view the landscape, and in our case, view the glaciers and seeing how the glaciers are reacting to these changing environments. And that kind of feeds into our understanding in kind of non-quantitative way.
Yeah, so that was an excerpt from Andrea Polli's piece called Taylor Glacier from 2009. So Andrea Polli is the keynote, or one of the two keynotes. So she's attached to the Hong Kong part of DACA, and attached to the Graz, Austria part, we have Moritz Stefaner. So we have two keynotes. This is a dual hub conference. And Moritz Stefaner, he's a visualization expert, and he's really invented ways of presenting large data sets that has caught the attention of, for example, Scientific American. So he has worked together with them and with a lot of other places as well. But he doesn't work with sound, so he's also very much a specialist in this regard. We also have a third person who is invited to perform at DACA, and so he's a featured artist, and that is Rennick Bell, and we will play a little piece of his first. Before that, we will have Rio Ikeshiro talk a little bit about AlgoRave.
Okay. And yeah, so AlgoRave grew out of a practice that's known as live coding. So from 10, 20 years ago, when laptops became widely available, we were able to create music using computers. And we would have live performances where we have musicians with their laptops supposedly creating music live on stage. But often, if you're in the audience, you were never sure what they were doing and what part of it was live. And so yes, they could just have been, they could have just pressed play and played back something. They could have been doing anything else on the laptop while we were supposedly listening to a live performance. So those involved with live coding had this idea of showing their screens, and so they would project their screens onto a projection screen during a live performance. And during the performance, they would be writing code, and so the code would be written in real time and executed in real time. So that was one way to make the creation of electronic music, live electronic music, much more transparent. To begin with, most people involved were computer programmers, but with more accessible programming languages for audio. More what you might class as musicians became involved. And then AlgoRave grew out of this tradition. And so in AlgoRaves, you have music that is danceable. So it usually has a regular rhythm, sometimes a 4 on the floor. But these are governed by algorithms. So it is essentially an algorithmic rave. So it's music made by algorithms that you can still dance to. And Alex McLean, it was one of the founders of this movement, along with Rennick Bell, whom PerMagnus just mentioned. But what's nice about the AlgoRave movement is that that anyone, anywhere can put on an AlgoRave event. And so even though there are a few people who were involved in its founding, it's open to anyone to use this name and to put on these kinds of events. And so that's going to be one of the events that we will have here in Hong Kong.
Yeah, so for DACA, we invited Rennick Bell and we kind of gave him a challenge. We said that we're going to provide you, or one of our partners, the Hong Kong Observatory, actually collated meteorological data, a whole record since 1884 until 1 month ago. So that data set will be given to Rennick to work with and to use as part of the material that he, from which he will generate his AlgoRave performance. We first thought that this was a bit of a, maybe it is a first. We're not really sure if this is the first time anybody does AlgoRave with climate data, but maybe Alex McLean actually did it in around 2015. He has been involved in and definitely interested in the, let's say, the climate change, climate action movement. But very specifically to use the data to generate music, that might be a first that we're doing now in January. We thought we would play a short excerpt of a previous piece by Rennick. Yeah, so Rio mentioned that it's often very regular beats, and yes, it's danceable, but here, for this one, we wanted something that is a little bit crooked, a little bit oblique, something that is, well, you can dance it, but then you have to, have, I don't know, 3 feet or 5 feet on the floor or something. It's going to be quite loud.
So that was Rennick Bell's Fractal Beats, an excerpt from an artist who will be performing in the Algo Rave at DACA. So at DACA, we will have paper presentations given by artists and climate scientists. So we've had the selection process for that already. So we are in the middle of organizing the schedule, which should be out shortly. As well as the paper track, we have an art track for the conference, and also the work in progress track, and also a student workshop, which we'll mention in more detail later on. As part of the art track, we have several music performances, and they will be performed in a concert in Graz. So the more music-based pieces are going to be presented in Graz and streamed online and here in Hong Kong as well. The more exhibition-based installations will be presented in Hong Kong. So the exhibition is being curated by myself and Lina Simon, who is here, who will introduce the exhibition and a few of the works.
Thank you, Jan. This is Lina Simon. Hi again. Good afternoon from Hong Kong and good morning to London, and guten Morgen nach Graz for everybody listening in Graz at the moment. Hallo nach Graz. Yeah, so I'm together with Rio, I'm co-curating the exhibition that will be taking place alongside the conference, DACA here in Hong Kong, as well as in Graz in Austria and online partially. Let me tell you a few things about the exhibition here in Hong Kong that is going to take place here at the School of Creative Media, where we currently are, at the Singing Waves Gallery. And there are going to be works showed that were submitted to the DACA open call that you just mentioned before, as well as additional works. And there is an interesting mix so far, we can say that. I am especially looking forward to Duncan Gears and Miriam Quick's piece called Natural Lottery. They are literally turning climate data into techno music, sonifying what happens when natural cycles are disturbed by human activity. And we are currently thinking about how we could also include maybe a strobe lighting in space, or how we could get a bit of a club feeling in there, which is a rare thing to have these days, right? So this is, yeah, just an example of how abstract data on climate change becomes experienceable. The data here that Duncan Gear and Miriam Quick are using is from Alaska, from Belgium and Hawaii. But we do also have several works working directly with climate data from Hong Kong as well. So, for example, Andras Blaszek and Andreas Schaub are focusing on data and recordings of Typhoon Mangkhut, which was one of the most severe tropical typhoons ever recorded in the region, and which was basically another warning what climate change could bring to Hong Kong and the region in the very near future. So Andras composed a concert of this extreme weather in 3 movements, whereas Andreas, who was actually a student here at SCM, he kind of destroys a Brahms piece, a Brahms classic, with the storm data in his installation. And yeah, another example I could give you is the piece The Weep of Trees by the Band of Weeds, a group around Kalehamn from Finland, right? And it sonifies and also visualizes data that is collected from, let's say, stressed out trees and sad trees, really, reacting to neighboring trees when they are being felled. So the idea behind it is quite poetic and is based on a poem from Finnish mythology, where plants were understood as subjects, as active subjects and persons that you can also hear complaining when people treat them badly. And another kind of related approach, but also a different approach that could be mentioned here is that is also based on storytelling, is a work by our colleagues from SCM RLC, Zizing Song and Yating Sun from the School of Creative Media. They are showing a comic strip and visualizing and kind of dramatizing otherwise really dry data on climate change. And what I would like to briefly mention is what we also already heard, that there's still an open call regarding works in progress. So anybody who is listening right now and who is creatively working on topics like climate change, data, sonification, what else, activism, community, or similar topics, please feel free to submit until the 1st of December. And we will be happy to review your ideas and your work, and perhaps we can still include them into the exhibition. So let's listen to some more DACA music. What's up next? Video.
Oh, that one.
PerMagnus. Oh, it's a piece by PerMagnus Lindborg himself.
Let me just say 2 words about this, because it's a very short thing. It's just 60 seconds, because it's an excerpt from an hour-long piece. But I think you can bear with me for 60 seconds. So this is a sonification of projected weather in 2090 until 2099 over a region in South Southeast Asia, so centered around Singapore. So these projections, right? It's we have the whole stretch from the now, so to say, until the end of the century. But here you're just going to hear the last rains or rainstorms, and indeed the scientists, the projections go that there will be bigger extremes between dry periods and very wet and very heavy monsoons and rainfall. So that is what this short excerpt of 1 minute is showing. Oh no, wrong link. This is the wrong link. Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy.
Yeah, enjoy the ride. I mean, it's terrifying actually, but
Yeah.
The Q&A. Yeah, so that was the last rains sonification. It's part of the Locust Wrath series that I made. So yeah, my name is PerMagnus Lindborg. I think I mentioned it, but my voice is also PerMagnus Lindborg. You know? I'm just gonna mention again that we have the work in progress track is open for submission until 1st of December. So you're very welcome to send in things that you are maybe tentatively, speculatively, and not quite ready with. That's absolutely fine, and we'd be happy to take a close look and ear onto those things and possibly include at the DACA conference. I also want to mention that we have the student workshop, and this is for people who are based in Hong Kong or in the close region. We might open it up to streaming, but not really participation for people outside Hong Kong. The student workshop is open for submission until the 15th of December. And you're very welcome to take a look at our website. Did we mention the website address?
No, not yet.
Okay, so it's dataclimate.org. Okay, dataclimate.org. Take a look at that for everything that's happening, including the dates. So that's, 12 to 16 January 2022 coming up now. So yeah, and with that,
Yes, so
I think that's it from us.
If anyone has any questions, we would be very happy to answer them.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks to the three of you. It's really nice to have all of your voices and to share all of the hard work going on there to put together this conference. I didn't quite realize the amount of sort of fun that might be going down on this particular event. Like, it sounds like a sort of, I don't know, opportunity for various raves at the end of the world or something, you know, that kind of vibe. I guess I just have one question really about sort of people who might be in other places, you know, how they can participate in most things. I mean, are you going to stream a lot of these events, or is it mainly the sort of discussion parts that people can tune into from wherever they are, and then the things like the exhibitions and the performances, you know, maybe they catch up on later? Is there a general theme to how people might get involved?
Yes. So we mentioned that the conference is happening in 2 different places, plus being online. So keeping in with the theme of the conference, we want to encourage people not to fly to our conferences. So it's happening in Europe and in Asia. So hopefully people will either be able to travel by train or to tune in online. So as much as possible, we will try and stream concerts, paper presentations, as well as having online versions of installations in the exhibitions. So wherever you are in the world, you should be able to experience most of the program. That is our plan. Yeah.
And including for the exhibitions. So there's one exhibition here in Hong Kong and also an exhibition at the IEM in Graz, Austria. And we're planning to do something like a stream tour, tour of the gallery as they open for both of these places.
Yeah, that's really nice. I think it's quite important actually that with these kind of, conferences with this particular theme, people are encouraged to kind of, connect how they can without traveling halfway across the world if they can help it. I guess, I just had another observation, well, a sort of question I'm hoping that you might be able to tease out with this conference really. It's kind of, what makes a work of sonification more effective than another? Like, what is it? What kind of sensitivities do you need to have when you're working with epic amounts of data to really be able to make that, just bring out that kind of reaction that you want from people when we're dealing with such kind of potentially catastrophic sequences, or because that's a question that I've had about sonification. I haven't quite managed to answer. It's like, what makes something a good translation, if you want to call it that. I guess this is something that might take the whole conference to kind of tease out, but just if you have any initial thoughts on that.
No, I think that's a great question, and indeed, it's something that we will be discussing both from the artistic perspective and from the scientific perspective. I mean, it's very important for when you try to do a science communication, to have something that works, something that actually you can actually read and understand the data, or you can understand the phenomenon through the sonic information in this case. And that is not trivial at all. And very often there's some kind of a training, you have to listen out for certain things, and then it can become effective. Sonification is quite often, relatively speaking, used in process monitoring, for example, at hospitals or nuclear power stations and such things. So where you have complex measurements going on in real time. But there's also this enormous benefit of being able to, or striving to communicate something that is important through, I would say, layman sensitivities to music and to images, to visualization of using pure light, for example. So I think that's all these perspectives. They shouldn't be that high of a threshold, I believe, but we need to figure out how to make this possible.
So then,
great.
So now I would say that with sonification, as PerMagnus mentioned, that traditionally, I think there's been a scientific approach where you just try and communicate the data, and then a more artistic approach where the aim is, I guess, to create nice music or nice sounds. But this distinction is no longer the case for, I think, for some practitioners of sonification, where both are just as important, and those concerns don't have to be mutually exclusive. So some people who use this technique realize that being able to portray the data in an effective way also involves creating sounds with an artistic element. And so for me, I think that's the most, I guess, interesting aspect sonification now. And so hopefully that's something that will be explored in the conference. Yeah. I also wanted to say thank you, Dawn. So Dawn Scarp, she was involved in the peer review process. So thank you for reviewing our submissions for the conference.
Well, it was very nice to be involved, and I hope Tim's work goes down well, because I'd be looking forward to being part of that if I was there. So yeah, it's just really nice to know about all of this work, and yeah, really do wish you all the best with the rest of the organizing. And you never know if SoundCamp can have any ideas. We might also put in something for this work in progress. It's just yeah, we kind of been a bit sidetracked by doing this like mad 24-hour 2-week on air radio project. Yeah, but no, it's really nice to be involved. So thank you all for sharing the work going down there. I just wonder if any of our other people in the studio, Kira and Grant, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Just very quickly. Oh. Thank you very much for coming. This was probably the best thing to have this early in the morning to really get us going. This is such an incredible creative practice. And I'm definitely going to go online and check out your schedule, because it's an incredibly fascinating area of sound art, art data, I guess.
Okay, great. Well, yeah. Thanks, everybody. I can hear myself twice, so I better not talk for too much longer. But yeah, very nice of you to join us, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having us. It's very nice to be part of this really great project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.